Our access control is determined by our internal policies and procedures and the industry standards we need to adhere to. And we use them to outline who we give access and what we give them access to. This is where we can use mandatory, discretionary, role-based, or attribute-based access control. We can use least privilege, need to know, and we choose the implementation that makes sense in our organization. And access control spans all the layers. We have in our layered defense, just implement different types in each layer. We've already talked about the policies, the procedures, how we raise awareness through training, how we use physical security, network security, server security, application security. And all these are the overlapping layers we talked about that gives us that nice defense in depth posture where even if one or two countermeasures fail, we still have all the other ones in place. And we're going to go back and revisit the IAAA model. The identification, authenticate, authorize, and then finally we hold them accountable. And we should never ever allow group login our accounts because there is zero accountability. Any of those 20 people in that group could have logged in with the group login and stolen the data. We don't know who it was. Even if we might have an idea, we probably can't prosecute on it because so many people had access to that one account. The I of the IAAA model is pretty simple. Identification. That can be your name, your username, your ID number, your employee number, social security number. Or it could just be say, hey, I'm Thor. Then the access control system is going to come back and say, hey, prove you're Thor, which we do with the authentication. And we really should always use multi-factor authentication. You will probably see type 1, 2, and 3 on the exam. I do not think you'll see type 4 and 5. I left them in there just because it's good knowledge to have. So type 1 authentication is something you know. It's a knowledge-based factor. I prove I'm Thor by having that knowledge. That could be my password, my passphrase, or a PIN. Then something you have, or type 2 authentication. It's also called a possession factor. It's something I have in my possession. Since I have that, I must be Thor. They are mostly something you can touch, an ID, passport, smart card, a token, but it can also be a cookie on your PC. Know how a lot of times when you log into websites that are highly secure, the first time you have to do a lot more stuff. They send you a text message with some numbers on it, you need to enter that, but you only do that the first time, because the next time you go back and visit, you have that cookie on your PC. And then type 3 authentication. It's something you are, it's also called biometrics. It's a physical feature that only you have. That can be your fingerprint, your iris, your hand or facial geometry, something that's unique to only you. And then we talked about the type 4 and 5, somewhere you are. That can be we allow you on the network since you come from your home IP. And type 5, something you do, that can be your signature or the way you walk or the way you unlock your phone. It is still unique to you, but it can change over time where the biometrics never should, unless obviously something drastic happens. So to get multi-factor authentication, we would need 2 out of the type 1, 2, and 3 authentication methods. So we need something you know, something you have, something you are. Most places, they use type 1 and 2 because type 3 is really expensive to implement. And using your bank card is multi-factor authentication. It's something you have your credit card, something you know your PIN number, multi-factor authentication. Whereas a password and a username is not multi-factor authentication. You know your password, you know your username. It's not something you have, it's not something you are.